today with Angela Anderson, who's the Program Director of US CAN. Hi, Angela. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good.
Great. So I was wondering if you can give us an overview of what happened in Bonn today.
Well, we were in day 8 of the negotiations here in Bonn. These are 2-week negotiations, so we're getting down to the wire. What is happening today was a couple of what are called the subsidiary bodies. These are sort of the focused committees, as it were, that are in charge of both implementation of global climate change actions and also research and technology and really doing an analysis of how we get where we need to go. Those 2 bodies are about to wrap up their work, and the exciting part of today was they came to a deadlock late last night on issues that are really important to us, kind of the heart of the climate change negotiations. How do we get the emissions that science says we need to get to avert a real catastrophe? And they walked away without an agreement last night. But today there's been lots of side conversations, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that some serious work will go into to getting the parties to look at going beyond their comfort zone, finding new ways to reduce emissions, and really get us well below 2 degrees and hopefully to that 1.5 level that scientists are telling us is really the safest place we could be.
There's been a lot of debate about the gigaton gap. What we're really advocating for here is for the countries to actually, identify the fact that there is a gap between the promises they made in Copenhagen and where we need to be in order to mitigate climate change. Can you speak a little bit to this? What's going on with the gigaton gap here?
Sure. Where science says we need to be is here, and what they pledged in Copenhagen is still up here. But there are ways that you can chip away from that gap, and there are ways that parties haven't really thought about. There are, they're looking at sort of domestic emission reductions, kind of the standard things we're all used to. More efficient cars, more efficient power grids, better use of renewable energy and alternative energy. But there's some other things to look at. There are things like black carbon and soot and aerosols and a bunch of things that are not adequately regulated, and we could do more in those areas. So the whole idea behind this technical paper and the workshop that we've been pushing for here, and what the parties came to a draw on yesterday, was really sitting down to both analyze from an expert level and talk about whether or not those things are options for them. So part of the matter, we're hopeful. The sort of Hail Mary pass is happening as we speak, and tomorrow morning, hopefully, we'll get some openness to really look at some new ideas and some new ways of thinking about how to get the job done.
Another hot issue in Bonn has been finance. So we want to see funding for developing countries to be able to adapt to climate change. Has there been any movement on where this funding is going to be coming from and things of that nature?
Sure. I think this is one of the most exciting aspects of the conversation here in Bonn. We're really dealing on a couple of levels. One is certainly leaders made a commitment in Copenhagen to raise $100 billion annually by the year 2020. Now there's some really interesting work going on to figure out a couple things. One is, where do we get the money, and where are the source of that revenue? And the second is, how do you spend that money? How do you come up with a system that is fair, that is balanced, and that's going to get the money where it most needs to go, to invest in a low carbon future, to help countries adapt, and really kind of, how do you pay for the solution of the climate change problem, the global warming problem? So 2 things happened today, or one big thing happened today. The Ban Ki-moon has pulled together a high-level panel on climate change. These are people who are experts. They range from heads of state to businessmen, but people who really understand the world of finance, not in the way we talk about it often in these negotiations, but investment. How do you move big dollars into big projects? And they gave a report on their work today. They talked about engaging civil society more in the process, and they talked about the report that they plan to offer up to the parties, to all nations, to really start getting down to details on how they're going to raise that money. And so I think there's some exciting work going on there, and there's a lot of important work that needs to happen among the nations that they talk about, and they come to a real agreement on, here's how we're going to cooperate to get that money spent in the wisest way possible.
So there's been some debate on whether or not we'll see draft text by the end of this meeting, which is on Friday coming up. Do you think that we're going to see draft text? And if not, what are the implications of that?
Well, I think the importance of a draft, the countries here have been responding to just a compilation of pieces of the Copenhagen Accord, pieces of the text they were working with last year, and they're going to have to sort through all that. And they've got to come up with a document that is essentially a set of draft decisions or agreement on some really important issues. So the draft text, if they don't get it this week, it just means there's another 3 months to wait. Once again, kicking these decisions down the road further, slowing this process. We just have to look to my home country in the United States and see that we can't afford to wait to shift away from fossil fuels. We've got the biggest environmental disaster in the United States history that's going to have global implications happening in the Gulf of Mexico. If that's not a wake-up call to everyone, that there's a better way for us to power our world, then I don't know what else is. And it's having real impacts in the United States, and I think it will globally too. So the importance of these pieces of paper is that they are the ideas. They are the draft work plan for how we get the job done. If they can't agree on a draft for future discussions for the rest of the year, they really slow down this process. I think there's a very good chance that we will see a text before we leave here, and I think that the tone here has been such, and the chair has managed the discussions in a way that have been very pointed, very specific, that I think they have a very good chance of ending up with a piece of paper that they can really dig in on and work through till Cancun and come out with some pretty important decisions in Mexico.
So what can folks do at home to make sure that they're driving these conversations and keeping the pressure on our leaders?
Well, I think that one of the things that's just amazing to me, again, is that particularly in the United States, we have this horrendous oil spill. We are still shocked by the awful pictures of birds covered in oil, of pelicans, the oil on the beaches, and we haven't made the connection about we're beginning to make the connection on what we need to do right now to help the people and the ecosystems in that part that are being affected by this. But long term, people who are sitting in these rooms talking about these pieces of paper, they're laying the groundwork for that transition. So we need to connect the Gulf and Bonn, and we need to connect it at the highest levels, and that's heads of state. The next time heads of state get together to talk about this is going to be in Toronto in just a couple of weeks. You should go to the Tick 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 website, let them know it's time to stop our dependence on fossil fuels, fill out join the pledge, sign the petition, and let those leaders know. They've made a pledge to phase out fossil fuels. Now they have to start investing in the clean energy economy.
Thank you so much, Angela.
Sure.